Hi, my name is Kobe Hart, and I'm going to go over two articles right here with you. One's a news story, one's a primary literature article. The title of the news story is called DNA Inherited from Neanderthals That May Increase Risk of COVID-19. And then the title of the primary literature article is The Major Genetic Risk Factor for Severe COVID-19 Inherited from Neanderthals. All right, the main points that the news story wants to imply is that a stretch of DNA linked to COVID-19 was passed from Neanderthals 60,000 years ago. A third of people in South Asia carried at least one copy, and then a new discovery of that genome was found on chromosome 3. All right, the big question that was asked here was that what is the evolutionary pattern produced this distribution over the past 60,000 years? And they found two possibilities, which were that the genome segment was harmful, and then over time became less active, and that the genome segment could also benefit people from that South side or South Asia side. And they found the two major findings was that there was one located on chromosome 9, and then there was one located on chromosome 3, which was a Neanderthal segment. And then Hugo Zeberg was the main researcher for this research project. He began a research of how the chromosome 3 segment was passed down by the Neanderthals, and he found that the genes from the Neanderthals were harmful to humans, and they slowly disappeared in the gene pool. And then he also found that the ones that didn't disappear became evolutionary, and later discovered that 1/3 of European women have that Neanderthal hormone receptor. And he also learned that this genome segment came from a Croatian Neanderthal from about 50,000 years ago. The theories that were said in this news story were that there was a possibility that the Neanderthal gene was that the immune system responded to the old viruses that happened to Neanderthals many years ago, but failed to COVID-19 and also created a more lethal virus to it. And then the evidence that supports that is that many severe cases of COVID-19, these people experienced uncontrolled attacks that led up to damaging their lungs forever. And then that DNA segment was the reason why people of the Bangladesh descent died quicker from COVID-19, because they had a copy of that severe COVID-19. And then getting into the primary literature article, this article basically goes over about how they found this gene cluster on chromosome 3, which increased the chances of the severe case of the infection. Professor Zeberg, who was the main researcher for this project, he joined forces with not a company, but an institution called the COVID-19 Host Genetics Initiative, which created a little graph that indicated the genome-wide significance that shows an A with the 3,000 patients with severe COVID-19 and a population of 800,000 people. And then for B, it compared the linkage disequilibrium of lead risk variants and genetic variants of the Eurasian population. And what they found was that graph A proved that the only region that showed any association with the COVID-19 was chromosome 3. And then for B, they proved that the high linkage disequilibrium between the genetic variants and the lead risk variants showed a match with the severe COVID-19. Getting in more in depth with Professor Zeberg, he discovered that a haplotype was entered into the gene flow from the Neanderthals or the Denisovans from the 4,000 to 600,000 years ago. He later then found that this segment came from a common ancestor of the Croatian Neanderthal. He created an investigation with his peers to investigate the relationships of the 49.4 KB haplotype from Neanderthals. In this investigation, he looked at more than 5,000 different genomes and included all positions of Neanderthal genomes and excluded variants found on only one chromosome or haplotypes only seen once. And here can give you a picture of what a haplotype looks like. And the results of this investigation is that he discovered that 253 present-day haplotypes contained 450 variable positions. And then he also found that all of the risk haplotypes associated with severe COVID-19 formed a big association. And this association was more related around the Croatian Neanderthal. And looking at the location frequencies found in the primary literature article, he found that the Neanderthal haplotype occurred around South Asia at a frequency of 30%, 8% in Europe, and 4% in America. And then the highest frequency was in Bangladesh at 63%, so that, and more than half the population carried at least one copy of that Neanderthal risk variant. Going on between the news story and the primary literature article, the news story is accurate, but misses a lot of essential information, doesn't go in depth with the article, gives quotes about what the professor says, but doesn't give no investigation, no steps about how the professor led into this investigation. And the only credibility that given off is direct quotes that are said from the researcher. Unlike the primary literature article, which is way more inaccurate, goes in depth with investigations, shows steps of that lead into the investigations. It includes graphs and figures that give it more credibility. It even explains a procedure that of how the investigation is done, how the results were gotten, and then also shows how the researchers, like Professor Zedberg, was thinking and showed how he reacted to certain real results. And yeah, that's it. Here's my references for my primary literature article, and then my references and citations for the images. Thank you.